All right, people, welcome back. Black Sheep, me and Balint. China.
It's not like China in your hand.
No, exactly. Oh, my God. Tapao, 1980s.
Yeah.
My God, heading back.
What a great music.
Exactly.
They don't this like this anymore.
No, they don't. No, modern music is... well, that's another section.
That's another show.
That's another show, yeah. All right, but I mean, as we know, and as we've said, well, possibly you don't know, Hungary avidly, eagerly attempts to bring Chinese investment to Hungary. Fine. But not exclusively. Sometimes it's presented in Western European media, especially in the European Union, as though Hungary only has one goal in life, and that is to secure as much Chinese investment as possible. That's not true. Hungary is prepared to accept investment money from anyone. We understand that we need investment for our economy to grow. I think this is kind of basic economics.
Yeah, we are small and open country, so we have to attract foreign investment.
Exactly.
And should they come from UK, US, France, wherever?
It doesn't matter. I mean, as far as we're concerned, money has no smell. We will take your money. The Hungarian government since 2010 has actively pursued a policy of opening towards the east. Now, this is something which seems to cause problems for the West because they say, no, you can't do that. There are bad people located in the east. You're not allowed to do business with them. Yeah. You've got Azerbaijan, Armenia, all these bad countries. China, terrible records of human rights. Russia, the devil incarnate. And you should say, well, fine, you can have all these opinions, but you're doing business with these people at the same time. But so are we. So what, you're allowed to, we're not allowed to. The whole thing seems very, very hypocritical.
Don't you realize that every time we speak about West, especially Western Europe, hypocrisy comes up all the time?
I mean,
what's going on? I mean, how did double standard became normal?
I don't know, but I mean, it is astonishing. Now, except that, say, for example, for the European Union, Hungary is getting more of the Chinese investment money. Okay, the numbers have dropped over the past few years, but I mean, think this year, Hungary is getting 31% of all the money which China is investing in the European Union. So we're getting the lion's share. So I understand that for the Germans who've just lost two major projects because they got cancelled because, I don't know, net zero or some other stupidity that the Germans found, I can understand that. Sour grapes, they're not going to get that money. We are. But at the same time, you should say, well, sorry, to some extent, it's every man for himself. We're not going to say, oh, would you have liked that? Also, we'll step back and allow you to go forward and buy or get Chinese investment.
Because we are so rich that we're able to do it.
And the other thing is that we get criticized for doing this. At the same time, they're doing it. And arguably, we are economically weaker than they are, simply because we had 50-odd years of communism, which ruined the economy, because if you have an economy driven by ideology, it's never going to work. And when it doesn't work, what do? You turn to the banks, you get loans. You get loans from other socialist countries, you get loans from the other elements of the USSR, you get loans from the IMF, anyone who's willing to pay money. And of course, because your economy, when under communism, is ideologically driven, you should say, well, fine, we'll get this loan, and at some point in the future, somebody will pay it off. And that's it. Okay, job done.
By the way, this is typical socialist thinking.
Exactly.
Margaret Thatcher has a very good saying. The problem is with socialists, they run out sooner or later from other people's money.
Exactly. So we sort of say, well, once again, Hungary, we've been trying to catch up for the past 30-odd years. We haven't reached the level of the West. Even though the German economy seems to be crumbling and falling apart, it's still far, far more powerful than the Hungarian economy. And, unfortunately, our economy is smaller, understandably weaker, and our economy is tied, perhaps shackled would be a better word, to the German economy. And so as the German economy falls apart, so the rest of the European economies fall apart, so the Hungarian economy starts to slow down and will potentially fall apart. So, sorry, if we want things to keep on improving, and we do not want to go back to the Dark Ages, thank you very much, we're not one of those countries. So we need to attract investment. And if it can't come from the West, because the West say, oh, no, we're busy, fine, then we'll go east.
Yeah.
We'll go to Azerbaijan, we'll go to Armenia, we'll go to Russia, although we're not allowed to go to Russia. No one's allowed to do business with Russia unless
Just wait.
Exactly. Hopefully, although I did see that the EU have announced that there will be further sanctions if Putin doesn't do something or other. So
No, they had to. The point is that they have to agree on lasting peace and stuff like that. And, whenever I hear the word lasting peace, old communist songs come to my mind, which we were forcibly taught, and they were singing about lasting peace. And this is something like, naturally it's a good thing, but you can't achieve it through violence, and you can't achieve it through coercion. And this is something lasting peace. And
but this just mirrors the fact that the EU has turned into the former Soviet Union.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but we're not ashamed of the fact that we're looking for money. We're not ashamed of the fact that we need money to power our economy. We're not ashamed of the fact that China is possibly the richest country in the world. China has the most money to invest. So if we're going to go anywhere, we're going to go to them first. The hypocrisy, again, the double standards. We hear from Western Europe, we hear from the whole of the European Union, from the British, from the Americans, that we shouldn't be doing this, and say, fine, what alternative do we have?
Yeah. Please offer us alternatives.
Exactly.
Yeah. By the way, there was a big wave of so-called FDI, foreign direct investment, beginning of the 90s, basically the collapse of communism. And everybody looked towards it as it was a huge thing, and we thought that will bring us slowly but steadily towards Western European standards, living standards, and all this kind of stuff, and it hasn't. We got, outsourced the cheapest, the lowest type of works. Governments have struggled to build something like a modern economy, and suddenly there's a change on the approach, and that we are despised for trying to become more modern, more developed, and stuff like that. But that was the basic idea for us joining the EU.
Exactly. But if we go back to the EU, I tend to view Hungary's accession to the EU in quite a cynical manner, in that it appears to be the EU standard process that, please join the EU, we will help you. But when they say we will help you, what they really mean is, no, we will help German, French and British companies go into your country, destroy your manufacturing base and take over.
Yeah.
Because that's very good for them. It happened in Hungary. I've seen it happen in other countries as well.
Poland, Czech Republic.
Exactly.
That happened to Skoda. That was the crown jewel of Czech industry. And Skoda was manufacturing guns and wagons and cars, all the tanks, whatever, all the way down. And what they have done, they become the part of Volkswagen concern. Thank you very much.
Exactly.
The point is that whenever they say it, that this kind of, nefarious intents became clear after 20 or 25 years. And we suddenly realized that it was not about us, it was about them buying more markets, and it was them basically robbing those territories again. And it was similar to the Soviet occupation. Now it's called the Western European occupation. And whenever I say this, I'm a communist, I'm a Russian agent, whatever. And I said, hey, dude, where's our standards of living? In the last couple of years, we have managed to overcome Portugal and Greece. Thank you very much. But we were promised konditorei in Vienna.
Exactly.
We were promised the sweet shop in Vienna. Where is it now? Nowhere.
Exactly. This is the thing. And it's okay, true. Okay, when Hungary joined the European Union, it was, look, this is great. Within 5 years, we're going to be at the same level of Vienna.
Yeah.
Fine. Okay, that was, even at the time, it was
let's say 10 years.
Okay, 10 years, maybe 7.5 if we're lucky.
Yeah.
But the fact that people can now see that Hungary's sugar industry, for example, was completely destroyed by the West. They came in, they bought it, they shut it down because it's competition. We don't want competition. Hungary's tobacco industry, the same. Hungary's canning, Kecskemét with the canning.
Yeah.
They came in, Heinz bought it, shut it down, and then, okay, thank you very much. Fine. This ties into the other European Union problem, which is we are continually accused of taking the money they give for us and not doing anything. It's like, no, give. No. You are paying because we allowed you to come into our country and essentially do whatever you wanted. This is a deal.
You are paying for us giving up our sovereignty.
Exactly.
And opening our markets for clearly stronger competitors.
Exactly.
Whenever I say that for this reason we are colony lights, people get really upset, and I like that. So I mean, whenever I see their faces, you haven't come here like you are a true business partner.
No.
You have come here like a true conquistador. You came, you saw, and you conquered.
Exactly.
And the other thing is that I was buying water in 5-gallon, what is it called, the ballons or the big bottles from a company. It was a Hungarian company. I was completely satisfied with them. Every Friday they called me, "Sir, do you need water? How many water?" and stuff like that. They were bought by I wouldn't call which country, but a big multinational company. First thing was they cancelled was the Friday calls, and I haven't received a printed invoice because that costs too much and it's damaging the environment. And I said, "I'm recycling. How I'm damaging the environment? Please." And then from time to time we have issues with the service because they have turned everything upside down. And when I tell those people whom I still have contact, they say, "We're sorry, we can't do anything." Sooner or later, they will leave the company, and sooner or later, I will leave this company.
Exactly.
Because it's not a big step forward, it's a huge step backwards.
Exactly. And we've got the other problem where if we come back to the fact that, okay, Hungary, naturally, we were underdeveloped. Our economy was underdeveloped because for 50 years it was run on the basis of communist principles rather than capitalist principles. And capitalism is the ideology of economies. Communism? No, it's stupid. It doesn't work on economies. You cannot plan an economy. Fine. We know this, but it had to happen anyway. But we've got the same problem where we're starting from a lower down position. We're trying to improve ourselves because we can see that at the top table, we've got all these big companies, the French, the Spanish, the Germans, who are very, very well capitalized and who automatically win all the tenders in the European Union. And logically, the Hungarian economist said, in that case, we need to get a couple of companies which are good enough so that we can win tenders, A, in Hungary, and B, possibly in Spain.
No, out of question.
Okay.
We don't do our own competition. I have a good story about that. It wasn't an EU, it was a NATO tender. And it was about urban warfare. And this is my specialty. So I gathered a group of Hungarian specialists and we went to the corresponding NATO office, which by the chance was run by Romanians. So we were, how should I say, starting with a handicap. But anyway, we managed to give in an excellent what is it called, proposal. And I said, "Oh, that looks great, and this is perfect. We're just looking for something like that, a fresh look on stuff like that." And 2 weeks later, we found out on the homepage that we were not notified that we haven't won this tender, and it was won by a big British company who usually win these kind of tenders. So what are we talking about? And we asked the guys, and all the guys who were involved in NATO, we asked them personally. We had contacts, of course, there were Hungarian officers as well in the system. And they said, "Your presentation was much better, but they usually win these kind of tenders." So what?
So exactly. I mean, this is the thing. I mean, here we are trying to improve ourselves and we're being stymied at every turn. Yeah. It's like, finally we have a company which could undertake work in other EU countries and say, well, of course, the tender system is open. But no, in actual fact, the tender system is closed. We've already decided there's going to be this Austrian company or this Spanish company or this French company or whatever. But you should say, if we are being blocked in the West, then it's natural for us to turn to the East. Yeah. We're at the eastern border anyway.
Yeah.
Hungarians are the most westerly eastern people. If we go back,
proud to be Mongols, like
exactly.
Says.
So we're going to look there, and really, all of this criticism is nothing short of hypocritical. The fact that they're doing the same thing. The British are falling over themselves to get Chinese money. Half of London is now owned by the Russians. The other half is owned by the Chinese. Yeah. But at the same time, the British says, "Oh, we won't do business with those people." No. You are doing business with those people. Otherwise, how did they buy half of the city? Yeah. I have no idea. Yeah. Must have been some sort of strange accident.
We are doing this under the table.
Exactly.
What kind of family is that?
Yeah, exactly. And they keep on saying they've got this dichotomy, this problem where they have to say, yes, we do want to do business with the Chinese, but we can't do it openly because this little group of people will get upset. It's like, if this little group of people haven't noticed that there is Chinese money pouring into London, then this little group of people must be blind. In which case, it really doesn't matter. But all of these people say, you can't do things because of the moral question. The moral question.
Business is business.
Business is business. For the love of Christ. Since when has the West had a moral high chair from which to regard the rest of the world?
In the last 20 years. in the last 30 years.
But it's unjustified. How can they justify?
You say so, and I say so, but who cares what we mumble under our nose or under a mustache, as we say it in Hungarian. A point is, and that I like this idea that since when do they have the high moral chair? Look what happened to China in the Opium Wars and all this kind of stuff, and the Chinese haven't forgotten it.
No.
And anytime somebody tries to push human rights on them, they always keep asking, when did you do this to us? How did you do this to other people and stuff like that? And I would like to be there because I know the Chinese are doing that. To see their faces, okay, but we weren't that good, but let's make business.
Exactly.
So
so the whole thing is ridiculous. And you look at British society, you look at American society, and you've got the people saying the outrage about the fact that the Americans and the British led a coalition into Iraq. And so say, well, okay, they said, well, we have to do that because of human rights. I say, yes, but during that period, you ruined the country, stopped electricity, there is no running water. Did you make things better or worse? I say, well, we have businesses going there now to rebuild the country. So, so you made it better for yourselves. But morally, that's not a particularly exact. Oh, fine.
What did the UN Security Council say about this? Nothing.
Exactly.
So was it an illegal war? It was. And we're going back to double standards. Of course, China has invaded countries. Last time it was 1979, Vietnam. But I think you can count the last 100 years on your one hand.
Exactly.
And I'm not even not a Chinese, another Canadian,
exactly.
lumberjack. So, but anyway, and if you start counting how many countries have NATO or NATO countries have invaded in the last 100 years, you don't have enough toes and legs and limbs and everything for that.
This is the thing which I can't understand, and I really don't understand why we are being subjected. It does appear that we've been allotted the role of whipping boy. It doesn't matter what we do, when we do it, it's always wrong because the people, well, jealousy. We're getting the Chinese money because, again, we don't judge.
Yeah.
You don't see our government saying, we're not going to do business with them because of human rights violations.
And imagine a 10 million country trying to, how should I say, show off or show force.
Exactly.
Towards 5 billion people.
We know where our position in the world is. We hear this repeatedly from the Prime Minister. So, well, it's not how we would do it, but we're not going to comment. It's not our place to comment. Manners maketh man. We don't have any reason to comment on that. Because at the end of the day, we're interested in the money. We need the money to make the economy grow. It really doesn't come into the picture. People have different cultural values. They do things differently. They wear different clothes. Fine.
Yeah. Sorry, we're not dealing with North Korea or something like that.
No, exactly. But and if we were, which we wouldn't because they don't have any money, so it'd be a bit of a dead-end street. But the whole fact is that when you see people being dragged before the international courts for having done business with North Koreans, they're never Hungarians. Yeah. They're all Western Europeans. So we've got the fact that, the Americans say things like, oh, you can't do this, moral rights and human rights, and oh, God. It's like, these will be the same Americans that sold chemicals to the Nazis.
Yeah. So, and also to Saddam Hussein.
Exactly. So we've got this. So what, did you forget that? Is your short-term memory really so bad that you can't remember? There's a beautiful, beautiful example now where there's a woman now, an Austrian multi-millionaire heiress who's standing steadfastly for free Palestine. And so they said, well, where did you get your money from? It's like, she claims the moral high ground everywhere. And they said, but you've got all these billions and billions of dollars, pounds, whatever. Where did you get it from? So, well, it comes from my family. It's like, where did your family get it from? Oh, well, they were involved in the chemical business. Oh, who were they dealing with? Like, well, the Germans. Oh, when? Oh,
1930s.
1940s. Okay, so what chemicals will they say? Oh, Zyklon B. Say, oh, right. So your family essentially made money out of gassing Jews, and now you're standing for anti-Semitism. But she claims the moral high ground.
Yeah.
She says, you can't. It's an impossibility. You can't sell poison gas to Nazis and then say, oh, my conscience is clean. It's not.
Yes, you can.
Oh.
Yeah, you can, because there's the thing called double standard. It is funny to see, and I just had a conversation with my wife. We watched a Hungarian movie about the 1848 revolution, Now or Never, most vagy sok, and it was a perfectly done movie. I enjoyed it a lot, even though it received negative reviews from the press. And that was she told me that, don't you see that there are always people who work for foreign countries?
Yeah.
And we call it lobons in Hungarian. And there's an arc you can see that from the lobons came the communists, then came the liberals, and then came the globalists.
Yeah.
They're always the same people and always the same kind of people. And in many occasions, they're the same people. We know there's a couple of people here in Hungary still living who started as communists, then became liberal, now they are globalists. And we start asking the questions, and they're not ashamed like these eras. They're not ashamed at all. They said, why? What's wrong? What's wrong with that? What's wrong? And you start talking us about moral high ground. Are we fools or what?
Exactly. I mean, how can we be expected to not notice that they're lying?
Yeah.
I mean, this is astonishing. I mean, we've got the perfect example with Britain now. London, a few years ago, the British government sold a plot of land in the centre of London, right next to the Bank of England. 25,000 square meters. 25,000 square meters. Sold it. Who to? The Chinese. Oh, so we don't want to do business with the Chinese, but we just sold them 25,000 square meters in the very centre of London, next to the Bank of England. So it's like, okay, so that's prime location for everything. You can.
Yeah.
You know, I don't even want to think about how much money they made from that. Anyway,
You can't even imagine how much money that was.
and now they're saying things like, "Oh, we can't give you planning permission." Say, what? You sold it to us with the idea that we would receive planning permission to build the biggest Chinese embassy in the world. It was going to be constructed there. Now the government is saying, well, apparently there might be security problems.
Apparently.
And you start saying, fine. So they've now blocked it for 2 weeks while the government considers whether to give permission for them to build this or not. All the time, British security agents, American security agents have been saying, this is a really bad idea, because if you're putting it next to the financial centre, then it's quite possible that the Chinese will be able to tap into some of the wires. Okay, now you sort of say, fine, the Chinese can do that. But the Americans can also do that, the French can do that, the Germans can do that. We know that the Americans spy on everyone spies on everyone else. So really, does it make any difference if the Chinese do it or the Americans do it? I don't know. Obviously...
So what was the result?
The result is still hanging in the balance. There has been no decision made. People are outraged about it. So say, but once again, you've sold it to them and then say, oh no, you can't have it.
It's in the Vienna Accords that the official centers of foreign intelligence are always the embassies. That's why they have diplomatic immunity.
Exactly.
That's the basic idea behind it, and that's a very well, how should I say, regulated area. So this is something typical we don't talk about, and this is something we keep under the table even in a family, but it's still a fact we have to talk about. So I don't understand this kind of stupidity. And the outcome will be that if you speak about China, let's say China will lose trust in the West.
Exactly.
And the moment they have lost their trust completely, they will start withdrawing assets, and that will start a collapse.
Exactly. The other thing is, which I find astonishing with all of the Western Europeans, but especially with Britain, the fact that Britain awarded the contract to develop the 5G network.
Yeah, to Huawei.
To Huawei. Then the Americans said, well, that's not a good idea. The Americans put pressure on the British. The British went back on the contract and said, we can't use Huawei because they're connected to the Chinese state. Of course they're connected to the Chinese state. Everything is connected to the Chinese state in China. TikTok is connected to the bloody Chinese state. So the lack of logic moving forward.
Yeah.
And now they said, okay, see, that was a good example. That was the British saying, no, we will not have this. This is a security vulnerability issue. Okay, fine. At the same time, having said no to Huawei developing the 5G network, apparently 50% of the security cameras in the UK, and London, for example, has more security cameras per square meter than anywhere else. So apparently 50% of them, they've decided that, well, actually, these are all made by Chinese companies, which are connected to the Chinese state, and there is an obligation on these companies to send all data back to the Chinese state. So maybe that could have security implications as well. So what is this, amateur hour? I mean, honestly, You need to decide, are we going to lie down with the Chinese or are we going to reject all advances from the Chinese? If you're going to reject all the advances from the Chinese, then you will lose out economically.
Yeah. If we speak about intelligence, everybody is spying on everybody, like you said.
Exactly.
And Microsoft is full of security holes, intentional and unintentional.
Exactly.
So basically, why does it matter if a major company, a major country like the US or China wants to know anything about you, they will. So this is no point resisting, and sooner or later they will set a satellite on you, and then there you go. So this whole hypocrisy issue is much more related to this ongoing ideological, I wouldn't call it struggle, it's an open war now.
Right.
Which is, should we have democracy with freedom of speech and stuff like that, which we believe in, or that we are going to the feudal type of world, which World Economic Forum and all these shadow companies and shadow councils are trying to push us.
But I mean, also the other thing you should say, well, fine, freedom of speech. We have it here in Hungary. I would suggest that in Britain there is less and less. Even the Americans have noticed that, well, you know, freedom of speech in the UK does seem to be sort of like, you know, a shadow of its former self.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we sort of say, okay, we have this ideological battle going on against China, against Russia, because the Russians are the bad Slavs. The Ukrainians, of course, are the good Slavs, even though they're Slav. But okay, one group is saints, one group is devils. Fine. The Chinese are always the devils. Fine. The problem here is the fact that this is essentially a question of propaganda and traditional propaganda.
Yeah.
The British have been telling their populations for years, decades, centuries that, no, can't trust that guy. He looks a little bit like us, but no, can't trust him. He's a devil in disguise. Fine. They've now got to the stage where they can't. They're addicted to their own propaganda. And now they've got to the stage where it's become... They've split. It's become essentially a schizophrenic government approach where we'll do business with the Chinese because we need to, because we need their money just as much as Hungary needs the money, just as much as all countries need money, because without money, without investment, the capitalist system just won't work. It'll stop and we'll all go back to living in caves. Fine. Nobody wants that. But at the same time, rather than just stand up and fess up and say, yeah, actually, what we've been saying about these guys for the past 100 years, it's not really true. I mean, yes, they do things differently, but you know, they're not devils incarnate. This is the problem, that there's a lack of transparency and a lack of honesty at their own national level.
And lack of intelligence. But when we speak, okay, we can say Russia has committed aggression.
Yep.
Don't ask what happened in Libya. Don't ask what happened in Iraq. Just put it under the rug.
It's different.
Doesn't matter. But Russia have committed aggression towards Ukraine. Okay, we don't do business with the Russians. We do, but we don't talk about it. Okay, we wouldn't like to go doing business with Trump because he's Trump. Okay, but that leaves us only China.
Exactly.
And we don't like them because they are Chinese and communist. Okay, but whom are you going to do business with? So this whole idea is, I don't know where is it coming from, and what I don't understand more, why people buying into this.
Exactly.
I mean, don't anybody use their mind?
This is the thing. You sort of remember. I remember people used to say, "Oh, of course, politics is very important." Say, yeah, but you could argue that economics is even more important, and economics should have a greater control of politics, because the economists say, well, fine, okay, as you said, you don't want to do business with the Russians, fine, they're out. You don't want to do business with Trump because you don't like his hair. Well, okay, fine, that's, great idea, fine. You don't want to do business with the Chinese. In that case, we are going to stagnate. We are going into recession at a speed that will shock you. It can't be done, but they're insisting that it can be done. It's the same thing. It's this bizarre suicide by dismantling the economy idea, which seems to be prevalent not so much in America now, because the Americans seem to have woken up, and Trump has so said, no, it's a stupid idea. Yeah. Which for years they said, oh no, it's a very good idea. Oh yes, we should try cutting our throats. It might help.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
It won't hurt.
Exactly, won't hurt. The Germans, with their obsession with net zero, have said, please, look, everything is clean. Of course, there is no employment anymore, and the cars don't run, and you can't heat your house.
Kiev can be clean and
exactly.
Carbon dioxide neutral.
Exactly. We've got the same thing with the British are obsessed with this net zero thing. People say, but it's going to kill the country. No, but we'll all be much healthier. We have to say, fine. Meanwhile, you've got the Chinese who are sort of like powering everything with coal, saying, well, fine, if you want to kill yourselves, that's your business.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with us. We will continue, maintaining our economy.
And funny thing is that you know why the Chinese are pushing electric vehicles, EVs?
Why?
Because they just can't buy enough oil to deliver fuel to 200 millions of cars, which they have, or even 1 billion cars. It's just the world's oil is not enough. And they were thinking in advance and said, what would you need if people who are getting richer and richer all the day, all year, well, start buying cars. Okay, let's build electric infrastructure and let's build electric cars. It will solve the problem of smoke. It will solve the problem of a lot of things. And what they started way in advance, they started buying up rare earth materials, and they started building rare earth refineries.
But in that case, where are they? If we are to believe there must be a better word than propaganda. If we are to believe what the West tells
narrative,
exactly, the West narrative that they are the pinnacle of human achievement.
Yeah,
they are streets, light years ahead of the Chinese. Then what the hell happened? Because the Chinese saw something, they took an advantage, they predicted what was going to happen, they dealt with it. The West, they say, no, here's the answer. Let's destroy the economy.
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't see the logic. The other beautiful thing...
Let's stop building internal combustion engines. What's such a good idea?
Exactly.
Oh, maybe we shouldn't.
Exactly. I mean, the whole thing is absolutely insane. And we've got the other thing where, again, the West maintains that they have the moral authority to say, people in China, your fridges, there's too many of them. They're creating CFCs and destroying the ozone layer. So stop using fridges. At which point the Chinese say... Yeah, screw you. You had fridges. We didn't. Now we've got to the stage where we've got the money to make we've got the manufacturing capability. We can make fridges. And yes, we would like our beer cold. Yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, so mind your own business. Yeah. We've got the same thing where...
Excuse me. Who drinks beer warm?
Well, apparently the Germans.
Apparently, yeah.
I mean, although the British do have they used to have a thing for...
Yeah.
Non-cold beer.
That's why I'm asking.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, I've forgotten about that. Yeah, it's been so long since I was offered.
You're half Hungarian now.
Exactly. It's been so long since I was offered a half-flat warm beer that thankfully it's just all coming back now. But again, the moral lecturing, the idea that one country or one half of the world has the right, has the authority to lecture the other half, is stunning. When the British say, "Oh, India, stop burning coal." So the Indians say, I beg your pardon, sorry. We would actually like our economy to continue to grow, and until we find another alternative, then this is what we're going to do. Oh, you can't do that. See, we are setting the good example. We've stopped burning coal.
Yeah.
Yes, and your economy is now skydiving.
Yeah, it's skydiving.
Skydiving, exactly. Skydiving without a parachute, obviously. But here again, here we are, little Hungary. Okay, we were made weak and poor following the First World War. And it does appear, I mean, I'm not one normally to agree with conspiracy theories, but I am starting to see that, somebody or certain somebodies do want to keep us in a place. It's like, no, you're Hungary. You stay in your box. Yeah. You do what you're told. And when we don't, we get a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, I have a bad news for them. We are not that type of guys, and they should ask the Austrians who say that the rebellious Ungarn, the rebellious Hungarians. That's what we are. So we are the enfant terrible who keeps telling that the emperor is naked, and we will be the one crying out loud.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, we're black sheep.
Yeah.
We accept that.
That's what we are.
It's an accolade. We don't have a problem with that. Thank you very much. You recognized it finally.
Yeah. That's all, folks.
That's all for now. That's all, folks. We're done. Black sheep, don't mess with us.